Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of manipulation. We're going to go from the totally normal way we all manage first impressions to the much, much darker art of control.
So let me start by asking you a question. Right now, as you're watching this, are you performing? Are you maybe adjusting how you're sitting, how you look, maybe even how you're thinking about this whole topic?
Well, if you could ask the famous sociologist Irving Goffman, he'd tell you the answer is a big, fat yes. He believed that pretty much all of our social interactions are just a kind of performance on a stage.
He had a name for this whole thing: impression management. It's this process we all use, whether we know it or not, to try and influence how other people see us. He came up with this idea way back in 1956, and he argued it's just a fundamental part of how society works.
And honestly, we do it all the time. Think about it. A job interview? That's pure impression management. A first date? Yep, that too. And those carefully chosen photos on your social media profile? You bet. That is you managing your impression for the whole world. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just how we get by.
But here's where things start to get a little bit darker. What happens when this basic social tool gets, well, weaponized? When the goal isn't just to put your best foot forward, but to actually control how another person thinks, feels, and acts.
And that's a really important line to draw. See, impression management is just about presenting yourself. It can be totally harmless. But manipulation, that's about controlling other people. It's often unethical, it preys on our weak spots, and it's where things get really dangerous.
So what does this actually look like? Well, one of the nastiest forms is gaslighting. That's when someone works to make you question your own mind, your memories, even what you're seeing with your own two eyes.
Now, while gaslighting messes with your head, love bombing goes straight for the heart. I mean, it feels amazing at first, this huge wave of attention and compliments, but it's really a tactic to get you to trust them quickly so they can control you later on.
And then there's triangulation. This is when a manipulator drags a third person into the mix just to stir up drama and make you feel insecure. All these tactics show just how easily our perceptions can be twisted. And to see how this works in the real world, we've got to look at this fascinating experiment.
Okay, so this brings us to this incredible field study that shows something really deep about our hidden biases and the sheer power of a first impression. Let's just call it the well-dressed panhandler. The setup was just brilliant in its simplicity. On some days, a guy would stand on a busy street corner in jeans and a t-shirt asking for money. Then, on other days, the exact same man would stand on the exact same corners, but this time, he was decked out in a full business suit and tie.
So who do you think got more money? The guy in jeans, who kind of fits the stereotype of someone who needs help, or the guy in the suit, whose request seems a little off?
Well, the results are pretty surprising. The man in the suit actually got more than 3 times as much money on average from every single person who walked by. His average donation was almost 3 cents a person, while the guy in casual clothes got less than a penny.
And if that's not wild enough, get this. 4 times during the whole experiment, people gave big donations. We're talking $5 and $10 bills. Every single one of those big bills went to the man in the suit. So why? What is going on here?
Right, what was happening inside people's brains that made them open their wallets for the person who, on the surface, seemed to need it the least? Well, the researchers actually followed up to find out.
So they did another study. This time, they just showed people pictures of the man in his 2 different outfits and asked them to rate him on a bunch of different things. And the results are really eye-opening.
So here's what they found. When he wore the suit, people saw him as more competent, more intelligent. They saw him as having more warmth, being more trustworthy and friendly. People felt like he was more like them, more of one of us. And this last one is a real gut punch. They literally saw him as more human. These deep, subconscious snap judgments, all triggered by a simple suit, were driving people's decisions.
Okay, so after seeing just how easily our perceptions can be bent, it is so important to have a toolkit to protect ourselves, not just from our own biases, but from active, chronic manipulators. So let's get practical. According to the folks at Psychology Today, there are 3 boundaries you've got to set. First, stay emotionally neutral. A manipulator feeds on your reactions. If you don't give them one, you basically cut off their power supply. Second, state your boundaries and the consequences really clearly. Like, if you call me names again, this conversation is over. That puts the ball in their court.
And third, if nothing else works, just remove yourself. You don't owe them a big speech. A simple, "I'm not going to be a part of this anymore," is all you need.
This quote just nails it, right? You can't force a chronic manipulator to change, but you are 100% in control of how you respond to them. And that's where all your power is.
So we end up right back where we started, with a question. We're all managing our impressions, and we're all reading everyone else's. Knowing how easily our brains can be swayed by a suit or a smile or a story, the real challenge is deciding what impression will you choose to believe.